Okay, so thank you so much everyone for taking the time out to be here today. And good evening, I'm Sneha and I'm the chair for ACM-W ASEB. So welcome to ACM and ACM-W ASEB. If this is your first time here, then we'll let you in a little bit about ourselves and then we'll talk about the SIGs in general. Then we'll move on to the Web Development SIG in particular. So we are a tech club here at Amrita School of Engineering, Bangalore. So what exactly do we do here? At ACM, we conduct mainly three kinds of events. That is, we have general events, then we have talks and seminars, and then we have the SIGs. So these general events could be any contest or simply a webinar explaining a particular concept. We have talks and seminars where we call in people from other organizations or other colleges to talk about their experiences or to share their knowledge in a particular domain. And we have SIGs, and I will detail a little bit more about this in the next couple of slides. So at ACM-W ASEB, what we do is we help celebrate, inform, and support women in computing. And we also aid in the technical growth of these women by organizing conferences, seminars, workshops, and many other events. So this is exactly what we do at ACM and ACM-W ASEB. So what events have we conducted so far? Well, we initially started off with our intro event, and then we had an event called Dominion Over Domains, where we basically we had one of our alumni explain what different domains entail. Then we had an event called Learn Code Repeat, where the participants were introduced to different coding platforms such as Geeks for Geeks, Lead Code, and things like that. Then we had Git Set Commit Pull, where participants were given a basic overview about Git and how it works. Then we had recently an event known as Hour of Code, where we basically helped the participants in building a currency converter using Tkinter in Python. Then we had open source talks, where we had two speakers from two different universities, and they came here to share about their experience with open source. So if you would like to watch all of these videos, do follow our YouTube channel. The links will be given in the chat. All right. Now I'll discuss a little bit about the SIGs. So what exactly is this SIG? So an SIG, or a special interest group, is a place where like-minded people get together and we indulge in intellectual discussions about a domain of your choice. So that's what we do here at the SIG. It's a place where people meet up after school after college, and we basically discuss about a domain that you're interested in. So what are the domains we have? We have the web development domain, and more about this will be told in today's session. The app development domain, the introduction for the same is held tomorrow at 5:30, and data science, which will be held on Monday at 5:30. So what will you get to do in an SIG? In an SIG, for the domain of your choice, you will go from a beginner level to an intermediate level. So you will be taught concepts from a beginner level to an intermediate level. And along the way, you'll get to work on many projects in that domain as well. And as you're working on projects, as you're learning things and accomplishing things, with your active participation, you will be getting badges as well as certificates from ACM and ACM-W. And you'll also get a chance to join our mentor-mentee program. So we have not released the forms for this yet, and we will be doing that soon after all the three introduction events are over. But do keep an eye out for our mentor-mentee program, because that's going to be something that's super interesting. All right. So at the SIGs, what happens at the SIGs? Well, your ideas are appreciated, not your ability to memorize. We here want you to learn more at the SIGs. We want you to understand concepts and come up with ideas of your own. And projects are not meant to be copied off the internet. We expect you to come up with your own ideas. And with your own ideas, we'll give you help and resources to bring them to life. You have complete ownership over your learning. And last and most important, nobody will judge you for your mistakes. So this is the kind of learning environment that we like to promote at the SIGs. Now, just a few common questions that you may have in your mind. So like we mentioned, we have SIGs in 3 different domains. So you may be wondering, how many SIGs can you join? Well, the choice is up to you. You can join as many SIGs as you wish. However, there will be a lot to do in each SIG, especially if you're completely new to this topic, then we will be going from a beginner to an intermediate level. And for you to completely understand things, come up with your own project ideas and work on them, there will be some work and some effort you'll have to put for this SIG alongside your other college studies. So we recommend that you just stick to one domain of your choice. How long will the SIGs run? So the SIGs will run approximately till the end of June. If there's any other information, we'll let you know as and when it comes. So how often will these sessions occur? So we are planning to hold each domain session weekly. So web development sessions will happen weekly. App development and data science sessions will also happen weekly. The exact dates for the same and when it will get started, we'll mention that to you after all the 3 intro sessions are over. So climbing a mountain always starts with a single step, and today's step is the Web Development SIG. So that's all I had today. Now, if you guys have any other questions, do feel free to put it up in the chat. In the interest of time, we'll be moving over to the actual Web Development SIG presentation. So Vinayak, over to you.
Okay, thank you for having here. Give me a second to share my screen.
Sure.
So is my screen visible?
Yes, Vinayak, it's visible.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Vinayak Tekade and I am a software engineer at CS. I'll be the mentor for Web Development SIG over here. My job here will be to provide guidance, advice, and feedback. Along with it, I'll also provide you support for this special interest group. So before we start with what Web Development SIG is, let me reiterate over what Sneha told about ACM Special Interest Group. So SIG represents major areas of computing, addressing the interests of a technical community that drives innovation. As a part of ACM's Amrita School of Engineering Bengaluru chapter, the students here interested in web development will be able to meet after college hours to indulge in discussions and experiment in the domain of web development. So that is all we are going to do in Web Development SIG. So here, along with that, we will be starting from a ground up basis and we'll follow a roadmap so that everyone who is new to web development, as well as anyone who is an amateur at web development, will be able to learn and grow along with everyone. So our aim here is to create a structured community where we teach and learn together. We highly encourage discussions and participation such that everyone gets a chance of learning from someone as well as teach someone. We will all be doing this while following a roadmap so that we all move in a direction towards becoming an equipped web developer. We will be working on projects from day one so that we learn by doing and not just by talking about it. Now let's talk about what web development actually is. The term web development is made up of two words. Let's start with the second term, development, which means building, creating, and maintaining the things that work over internet. So this term internet will come from web. So web refers to anything that works over internet. It may be a web page, a website, or a web app. So to discuss what web page, website, and a web app is, so a web page contains only information, and it may be a single page itself. A collection of web pages which contains information is called a website. A difference between website and web app will be websites only display information, whereas a web app allows you to interact with them. So talking about the generations of web, we have Web 1.0, which is consisting of only static information. So a static page means only information is displayed over it and they are exactly how it looks. There are no changes made to it later on. Whereas when we got Web 2.0, we had the ability to interact with a website. So let's say if we are writing a blog, so that is provided to us by using tools like Medium. Or even let's say we have the ability to create documents using Google Docs. So all of these are working over the web and they're providing us a method to interact with them. So these are called dynamic web pages and they display different information at different times. Talking about the example of static pages, we have pages like Wikipedia, which show you all the information, and then also few hard-coded blogging sites where we don't have the ability to create blogs on them, but we can read blogs on them. An interesting concept we have of Web3, which is not yet out, is about decentralized internet, where your data doesn't need to be sent to a data center, and then devices can communicate directly by using blockchain technologies. The idea of cryptocurrencies and metaverse is based on Web3. Okay, so that was a lot of talk. Before we start running, we will need to learn how to walk first. So web development can be divided into two parts, the front end and the back end. The front end is the visual part of an application. It may be the text, the colors, the buttons, and all the other parts of a website you can see. All of it is scripted using HTML and CSS. So we will be learning HTML and CSS here. But notice one thing when I say it is scripted, because HTML and CSS are scripting languages. They are not programming languages. So we cannot say we can code in HTML and CSS. Instead, we script in HTML and CSS. To talk about the difference between a scripting language and a programming language, in scripting languages, we are meant to define only what an element looks like, or it may be a text, it may be a structure of a website. All of these are defined and they cannot be changed later. And whereas a programming language has a certain logic to it, we can create variables in it, we can create functions in it, and they can do their own calculations to display some other information, or even just provide some calculated numbers. So that is the difference between a programming language and a scripting language. So here, the programming language we will be using is JavaScript. And if you may tell us that why do we need a programming language in web development? So for example, when we interact with a website, let's say you click a button, there is a certain animation to it, right? So these animations, when are they supposed to be triggered? That logic will be coming from a programming language. And that is why we'll be using JavaScript in our front end as well. Talking about the second part of web development, that is the backend. So the backend can be uh, programmed using any programming language. It may be JavaScript, it may be Python, it may be Java, or it can also be C Sharp. Here, since we are already learning JavaScript for front end, we'll be using the same for the backend so that our learning happens smoothly. So here, a framework based on JavaScript is Node.js. Node.js provides us a runtime so that our JavaScript code can be uh, working in the server side of our application. So when we say server side and client side, so this term can be used in reference to who is using the application. So the user of the application is the client side. You are the client to the website. And then the server, which is doing all the calculation, is called the server side. So that is why front end is called client side and back end is called server side. So our front end will be based on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Our backend will be based on a programming language JavaScript, and the runtime will be provided by Node.js. And then along with front end and back end technologies, we'll be learning about Git as well, so that we will be able to publish our applications or the projects which we'll be working on our GitHub profiles, so that you can show it to your friends. Talking about the opportunities we have. So since web development is two part, front end and back end, a person can be a front end developer or a back end developer. Or if a person can do both front end and back end, that developer is called a full stack developer. So a front end developer mainly works only on the front end side. So when we see an application, all the visual parts of it can be developed by a front-end developer, and all the server-side code can be developed by a back-end developer. And if a person can master both front-end and back-end, that person can be called a full-stack engineer. And the work of a full-stack engineer is to listen to its project manager and clients so that he can fulfill the requirements of the complete architecture of a web application. And since we're talking about web applications, this will be the building blocks. It will be the foundation of your career. So when we say that who is a software engineer, a software engineer is basically a person who develops applications. Here we are developing web applications, which is a, uh, a specific part of a software engineer. So a software engineer can develop an application which can also be a web application. So that's why the opportunity to be a software engineer also opens up over here. And instead of having just web application, we can have, like recently we are using MS Teams, which is based on Electron.js. So Electron.js is basically providing us a window inside which our web application is running. So you can say MS Teams is also a web application. And that is how a software engineer can also be a web engineer as well. Now coming back to the opportunities at our SIG. Here you will be able to interact with all your friends in the group, and while communicating to each other, you will also be able to understand how the web development actually works. So here, as I told earlier, we will be developing the culture of learning and teaching so that the idea goes both ways. And you, as a teacher, you will be able to understand the concepts better. Here you will also be learning to use various tools and resources that will help you become a web developer. You will also get guidance and you will be also able to work with projects. And of course, I'll be there to mentor you and we will build a great bond together. And that is all from my side. Thank you for having me here. Everyone, we'll see you at the SIG. Thank you.